I am going to introduce you Clinton Hughes. He is a research scientist with ASU Health Solution Group and XPRIZE HealthSpan competitor, has ASU Team HealthSpan. He is the founder of Youth Renewal Sciences. He brings the latest science and research from the lab to the public clinical space. Currently, he's working with Katie Kessin to bring these longevity modalities to the super longevity clinic near you. He is going to be presenting the Thymus-Pineal axis, understanding connections and regeneration strategies. Please help me welcome Clinton Hughes.
This topic is going to discuss the pharmaceutical or the pharmacological comparisons between metformin and berberine, and then we'll get into what the myostatin effect is from metformin, and the cycling of the protocols, which is one of many ways of doing it, because you can have it where you're just strictly berberine, metformin, or metformin, or maybe combine the two. So there's not a lot of clinical studies to show you what those effects will be and what's the best one, what's going to give you the most longevity. So we're just going based on what we think is going to be the best modality. It's not changing. It's not working. Now go. Nope. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so I told you I'm terrible at this. Okay, so anyways, the shared longevity pathways for both berberine and metformin are on the AMPK and mTOR. So they have very similar longevity pathways, and also the way of doing the glycemic and insulin. So we're able to do one or the other and still be able to manage your diabetes if you're diabetic, or in this case longevity. So one of the things that we're seeing is advantageous of cycling is the pulsal of turning on and off, because if you're on a modality for too long, your body gets accustomed to it, and then it tunes it down and becomes less reactive. But if you're turning it on, just like your peptides, you go like 5 on, 2 days off, as an example for some peptides. It's going to be the same thing for these for berberine and metformin. So we're looking at the advantage of the pulse of continuous pathway inhibitor. And then there's talk about metformin and berberine at high quantities to become toxic. So one of the other advantages of the pulsing is we can reduce the side effects of the long term. So that's kind of makes it safer to do it. So we did know that through the research that you can extend the life of mice and other animals and insects through both metformin and berberine. So I won't go into too much detail here, but basically you got metformin, which is lilac based, and then you have berberine, which is from the barberry, both natural products, but metformin has been turned into a drug, but it's been so long ago that it's like 1920. It's no longer cost effective to really push it, so it's really cheap. It's like $4, right? So okay, so basically two things with metformin and berberine. So metformin is easily digest and absorb into your body, but the problem is with berberine, it's not very absorbable, and so you can see that it's 5% due to poor absorption. So that means you have to take more of it, and also it doesn't stay in your system very long because your liver will break it down, and so you are going to 3-4 hours versus you can go a lot longer, especially if you go the slow release of the metformin. The thing is with berberine, they don't have slow release yet. I'm sure eventually they will when they start figuring out how they can turn this into a pharmaceutical drug. But until then, we just take those 3 times a day versus metformin would be 1 or 2 times a day. And you can see down here, This is the difference in dosing. So 500 to 2,000 milligrams a day and 500 to 1,500 milligrams a day. So the safety profile with this is that you have some issues with metformin causing B12 deficiencies. It can cause lactoacidosis. And then over here, you get basically gastrointestinal and berberine. That's pretty much it. There is some concerns that high levels you can get liver damage at high doses. That's at 50 milligrams per kilogram. So that's about 5 grams. The standard dose is between 700 and 2,000. And most people take basically 15 milligrams 3 to 4 times, basically like with each meal. So like when I take it, I do 500 milligrams per meal for my berberine. And then I have a 24-hour, oh, not 24-hour, but I have a slow release 500 milligrams of metformin. I just don't take more than 500 milligrams of metformin. Okay. So the contraindications is that it can cause renal issues. Don't want to be taken when you're pregnant. It can cause some liver issues. You can't hear her?
Still can't hear good. Can you turn it up?
Huh.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I have to talk a little bit louder.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm just not used to this, I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, so I'm gonna get good at this eventually. So the history, basically, you don't want to give this to elderly people as well. I'd probably just skip through a lot of this stuff. It's just basically don't drink it with alcohol and stuff like that. So one thing that when you are taking it, though, you want to monitor your body composition and insulin levels, HbA1c, stuff like that. So this is the main thing that I want to talk about with metformin is that it increases the myostatin expression. So the difference between, the opposite of the myostatin is follistatin. So follistatin will encourage your muscle growth and myostatin will want to remove or turn down those the proteins. So essentially, if you're taking large amounts of, if you're taking a large amount of metformin, you will see that it will cause muscle hypertrophy and limit the amount of protein processed because the mTOR is inhibited. And so essentially you can't grow muscle with that. But unlike for the berberine, it's the opposite. It decreases myostatin. So it allows you to build muscle because you're not being turned down. So you're basically encouraging your body to go into an anabolic state instead of a preservation state. So that's the other one. So this one right here, 1,700 milligrams per day, that's the amount that William Falloon is taking, which is twice a day at 8,500 milligrams per day. It attenuates the lean mass from resistance training. So that's, I don't know if you guys saw how thin he is. And people that take a lot of metformin, and that's because of the fact that they're prevented from growing muscle. And so that's where, well, if berberine and metformin are like really close to each other, why not just take berberine? Or in this case where, since we haven't done a lot of studies on this, so we don't know if cycling is the best or just going on the berberine to maximize it. So in this particular case, going on the theory that your body gets accustomed to a constant stimuli, such as being on something for a long period of time, that if you were to cycle it on and off, you were able to maximize your body's ability to heal itself. So that's where the difference there. So here's the benefits of exercise on berberine and metformin on recovery days. So if you know precisely what days you want to work out and which days you want to be in recovery, you want to do the berberine on an exercise day so that you can build the muscle, And then you want to be on metformin on the recovery days because you don't need to worry about your muscles gaining muscle at that time. You're going to be in to relax other supporting there. So you can see that on berberine promotes the anabolic environment and allows you to go in a catabolic state and anabolic, going back and forth on this pathway, which is, these are directly opposite of each other. So this one will preserve or sustain a diminished energy state in the cell. So anyways, I'm sorry, I don't want to drag you guys on this, but so anyways, the muscle hypertrophy considerations is that they have different effects on this. So you can see that on berberine, you have reduced inflammation, you have enhanced APAK, and the exercise and performance is enhanced. But over here, you got the opposite, that you're decreasing the IGF-1 and reducing mTOR. You need these to be in the opposite direction. So this needs to go up if you want muscle, and you want this to go up. So you can see that they're directly running against each other on that. So why does dose matter? Down here at the bottom is because if you're taking metformin too high, you get the attenuation of muscle. But if you're doing low dose, like I was doing, like 500 milligrams, you get the optimized cellular performance. And so there's, like I said, there's a fine line with metformin where you take enough of it is good for you, but if you take too much of it, it becomes bad for you. So this so when you're in a high dose metformin, it triggers this energy stress signal, AMP activation, and that will suppress your muscle development right there. So that's why, I mean, again, we need to run clinical tests on seeing what is the right recipe for you to maximize your longevity, but also gain muscle, because you don't want to be frail. You want to be able to gain your muscle mass. So here's the effects of the side-by-side comparisons between metformin and berberine. You can see your basal rate, post-exercise, the myostatin expression, and key activators. You can see that metformin is in the dark, and then the blue is berberine. You can see that berberine is actually a little higher, but when it comes to myostatin expression, berberine is in the negative, so it's turning down the myostatin, so it's inhibiting myostatin. Here it's exhibiting or turning on the myostatin. So, which is not what you want when you want to get muscle. So here's an example of a mice study of living longer, and they compared mice living on berberine versus metformin. And in this particular study, now the thing is, they have different mouse studies. There's a mouse study that's opposite of this, where metformin makes the mouse live longer. So really, when it comes to mouse, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I just happened to run across one that says if that mouse took berberine, it'll live longer than metformin. But so anyways, the main thing is it does extend lifespan. It increased the fur of the mouse, and you can see that how it behaved a little differently. So I will be curious to see in the future what other studies will be on that. So it's really hard to get a mouse study to represent humans. Even if you were to do metformin and berberine cycling and all that stuff, it doesn't translate with a darn to humans. So the only way to really do it will be monkeys or humans. Might as well just do it with humans. You guys are all welcome to help me create these groups and see who becomes muscular. We'll put us on different combinations. So this is what I was looking for metformin resistance, is when you're exercising in the berberine, on, off, sorry. Go through, so let me just go through this. Okay, so here's the exercise timing considerations. We were thinking about, you got your pre-exercise, during exercise, and post-exercise, and then you got your evening post-workout, and morning. So it's basically when you would take on your workout day, your Berberine schedule with your meals, and then on the recovery days, you would be where you're not taking the berberine. So we were proposing the way of cycling in on-off the berberine and the metformin to maximize, at least from this concept, the maximum muscle growth. We would have to compare one with just strictly berberine and other combinations to really see which one wins out, but this one is a lot better than just metformin. So if you were to, if you want to gain muscle, my key message here is don't take metformin. So the workout days is 3 times a week for berberine, and then metformin will be the other, let's say you worked out 2 days a week, you'll be on berberine, and then the rest you'll be on your metformin. And then we were proposing the running the schedule of the dosage with the night and day cycle, so that your endocrine system is working with your pineal gland and stuff like that. Is melatonin. It gives you the best performance because you have a clock when you're like your glucose is the best, when to eat and stuff like that. If you really want to go into this metabolic system. Yeah, so we were talking about morning dose, evening dose. If you were to the standard release versus extended release on your days off, and then we get into the workout of berberine and metformin, kind of like a schedule. If you were doing weights, so we were saying lift weights on your berberine day. Here's some examples of workout strategy that will work really good for you guys. And then light walking and miscellaneous stuff on your off days. And then this is just examples of nutrition. So I'll skip through that. You guys don't need to know about carbs and stuff. I'm sure you guys already know all that. And then the initial phase, this was implemented in timeline monitoring. So if you wanted to phase in, like you're just starting out, you're not on metformin or berberine, we want to trade up, which means that you start at a smaller quantity and then work your way up. And so that's basically what this is, and it's just to increase your dosage as you go through time. If you're already on it, then it's just going to be cycling one from the other. It's current limits and the future resources research, which basically was comparing the different concepts of berberine on-off. And novel approach. Okay, so this goes back to the 3 that I was talking about. So metformin only exercise trial, the berberine only exercise trial. So we already know what metformin does, and we have kind of an idea of what the berberine one does because we have anecdotal data saying that this allows you to gain muscle while maintaining the longevity effects. And then it'll be, okay, can we do other concepts? So then this is just basically saying you should go see your doctor before jumping onto this, and just a disclaimer. So you guys have any questions on this one?
Check. Okay. So we're gonna take. So you're actually. You wanna come this way, Clinton? You're doing great. That was really good. I know you put a lot of work into this, and you're not used to doing the presentations. But we're taking questions on this part, and then he's gonna continue on the second part of this presentation. So go ahead, Dean.
At RadFest, Bill Falloon talked about metformin,
Yeah.
and I've heard him many times, anti-cancer, and that's why he takes it. Do you know anything about berberine and anti-cancer?
Yeah, berberine is also anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. It actually has a better attenuation for inflaming than metformin does. I can send you a lot of research papers on berberine and metformin if you really want to like spend some days reading. Yeah, so I did talk to Bill Falloon directly at RadFest, and I told him about the berberine and metformin cycling because he was concerned. He said his research team said that high levels of berberine causes liver toxicity and could lead to tissue damage. The thing is, though, is that it's way above what is prescribed for people who want to control their diabetes with berberine. So that's, I think it's a non-issue, but when you cycle it, you are preventing the buildup of that toxin into your liver anyway. So it's safe for when you're cycling anyway. So there's a lot of benefit to cycling on and off while still maintaining, you know, the longevity aspects of both.
Great. Bruce?
One thing, there we go. You mentioned the mTOR inhibition for both of them.
Yeah.
And I wonder, you know, I know there's pluses and minuses, but is there some place for rapamycin in this because of the mTOR being rapamycin?
Yeah, so I could send you some information on how rapamycin can fit into this, but it is another aspect of mTOR, because that is all on the pathway of rapamycin. That's where mTOR got its name from. Is from,
Right, DR and...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know there's some pros and cons on rapamycin. I've heard people discuss, like, they're really in favor of it, and people say they're really not in favor of it. So again, that's one of those things. But.
So I take rapamycin myself. But I do cycle off of it. So I've gone from like 1 milligram a day to 6 milligrams once per week. And then I'll also take a break from it because the thing is there's not enough research in humans with rapamycin.
Right.
So Brian Johnson just came out months ago and said that rapamycin ruined him, and he's back, you know, like 2 years of his whatever. So he decided he's not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, and I talked to both Michael Rose and Sandra Kaufman. Both were against taking rapamycin. So I know there's a lot of, you know, back and forth with that. Thank you.
I have a question about the berberine and the metformin. Do you have any data on women versus men?
okay, so yeah, it both works for both men and women. It's just that I didn't put it in here, but there's something you want to do with the cycling. So I can send that to you if you want.
So overall, it will be a different kind of cycle for women versus men.
Yeah, but it's basically boils down to the same thing where you are working out on when you want to get muscle, berberine, and then if you're not, then you would be on. Yeah.
Got it. So we have one more question? Or we'll do 2 questions and then we can move on.
All right, I understand that the berberine also lowers your glucose. So for people that are all in the GLP-2 peptide that also lowers your glucose, will be a good combination to be on?
Okay, so you're asking if you're on a
Tirzepatide.
modulator, yeah, so you're taking GLP-1 inhibitor. So you would want to talk to your doctor because you don't want to lower your sugars too much. Right. Yeah, so, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really like the idea of this cycling. I think it's a really cool concept. Correct me if I'm wrong. As I understood, you are planning to do 24-hour cycles. And as I know that muscles, they grow during like something like 48 hours after the training.
Yeah, there's a slide I think I went over a little bit. It maximizes at 48 hours.
Okay.
So that's where in 2 days. So a lot of people will do exercise 2 days in a row instead of every other day. So usually they'll do upper body one day, next day do your lower half, and that gives you a further time to be in the berberine state versus the metformin state. So those are different combinations that you could do.
Okay.
It really boils down to your schedule.
Yeah, but you could just go for a gym once per 4 days, something like.
What's that?
You can just go for a gym once per 4 days, like, I don't know, like 3 times per 2 weeks.
Oh, you're saying exercise 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, like to exercise every 4 days.
Sure, those are all those things that we haven't done any clinical trials for. It's going to be like if we were all do a different combination, who wins at the end, then we'll all know.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we'll take a last question on this presentation. Sammy?
Thank you. So what do you do to prevent the liver damage for long-term intaking?
Okay, so I take berberine myself, and so I take 500 milligrams per meal. So sometimes I eat once a day, sometimes I eat twice a day, and then every once in a while, rare occasion, I'll eat 3 times a meal. So that's at the most 1,500 milligrams, which is way below the 5,000 milligrams that it was saying that would cause liver damage. So
Stay under 5,000 milligrams.
yeah, exactly. So most people don't go above 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams, and it's really based on your weight technically. So if you're 100 kilograms, so 100 I can't even do my math right now. 100 milligrams, 500 milligrams times, whatever. It's 20 milligrams per kilogram. So I wound up being at the most I would take would be, 2,000, whatever. So.
Okay, great. So now you're going to give us a second set of this presentation, but it's about the thymus.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of preface what it is? So this is kind of taken from Greg Fahey's TRIM trial.
Yeah, it originated from the TRIM trials from Dr. Greg Fahey. And he was basically saying that the thymus shrinks as you get older. And it's called thymus involution, which is where it turns into fat. And so it's producing less immune cell to T cells and stuff to fight off illnesses and stuff. So that's why when you get a certain age, cancers and other diseases become prevalent, is because now your body's not working like it's supposed to.
Okay,
So
let's go ahead and do that.
thank you. So one of the things that we did was we went beyond the TRIM study, because the TRIM was just about the thalamus. Now, the thing with the thalamus is that it's one of many organs that are outside the blood-brain barrier, okay? So this is basically just saying that there's a TRIM This is Greg Fahey's company, Intervene Immune, which was doing the TRIM. So he did the TRIM, and then he did the TRIM-X. So TRIM-X, A, B, C, and D. So he's on D right now, and he's going to start XP next year for which is the second half of the X Prize. So just to let you guys know, if you guys go read in the literature about TRIM, he's got a lot of them in there, because he's been doing this for over 10 years. Okay, so this is where we take what, it's a little loud. Okay, so this is where we took what Dr. Fahey did, and we expanded upon it. So the thymus is part of the endocrine system. And you can see that also that there's these other, what I call axes, which are these organs that are also outside the blood-brain barrier. And so that wants to be in real-time feedback system. So if you, like insulin, your immune system, if you are lack of oxygen or thirsty, those are all the responses within the, this axis here that has a feedback loop. So you got your hormones, and then it's going to respond, it's going to release something, and so they talk back and forth. And so what happens is that you have all these toxins in the environment, like right here, stressors and stuff, that affect those organs faster than like your brain, because your brain's behind a blood-brain barrier, so you got a little bit of buffering there. But what happens is that everything in the endocrine system over time shrinks and becomes less active. And so from an anti-aging standpoint, I'm looking at the whole system. So like a car, I want to restore it. It's rusted and I need to replace parts. Well, I'm not going to just replace the tires. I want to do the engine. I want to paint it. And so this is kind of like looking at the whole picture. We can have future talks on these different axes because it's pretty fascinating on how it drives aging and all the diseases that go along with it. But some of the other things like right here all cause your cells to age. So the hallmarks of aging within the endocrine system is basically cell senescence, mitochondrial dysfunction, epigenetic alterations, chronic inflammation, and intercellular communications. And so what we want to focus on for our version of TRIM study is specifically the hypothalamus, pineal, thymus. Now, I'm basically, for simplicity, technically the hypothalamus goes to your pituitary gland, then goes to your thyroid, and then goes to your thymus. And then the thymus and the pineal communicate. So from a simplicity, they name it the pineal-thymus axis because those, you have your melatonin that goes in and controls along with the hypothalamus, your amount of immune cells that gets released, and then that goes back to your pineal gland, and it says this cycle. So as your thymus shrinks, your pineal is shrinking. But there's another issue with, because melatonin is an anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of benefits from melatonin, I'll get to it. But your pineal gland starts calcifying. And that's where a lot of people are talking about don't take fluoride because that will deposit in your pineal gland and act as a reposit or a surface for the calcium that's in your blood to deposit itself on. So there's some stuff there. So basically the function here is hypothalamus master regulator, the pineal gland is melatonin, and your thymus is your T cell. Those are the main functions. So the thymus and your pineal gland, your hippocampus, you can see that when you're young that everything's working great. And then you can see that by the time you're in your mid-years, you've lost 70% of your function of the thymus. Your pineal gland has lost 50%, so that's why middle-aged people have problems falling asleep, staying asleep, and have insomnia issues, because really the hormones that are normally flowing through your body on these organs are not functioning properly. So I'll get to it in a minute, but I recommend everyone to take melatonin for longevity purposes, not necessarily for sleeping. So anyways, and then when you're down here plus 70, you have issues with stem cell exhaustion, your pineal gland is heavily calcified, and then your thymus is pretty much gone. It's very little. So if you're greater than 70, this is just like anything that's longevity, don't put it off. You want to do this as soon as possible. Some of these things that we're doing in this, because it just gets smaller, which means it takes longer for it to grow back because you have less surface area. So if you do go into a regenerative medicine, just don't wait. This is not accurate, but it's not physically connected, but the hormones are going back and forth. So that's what that's supposed to be. So kind of talks a little bit about how the endocrine regulation goes. And you can see that the pineal gland, it produces melatonin. It modulates the thyroid, the thymic hormone secretion, the T cells, and but then it calcifies at 10% per decade. And then the thymus, you have your T lymphocytes matures. That's what gives you your immune system. You can see that it produces these peptides, or bowel regulators, thymosin and thymolin. And then you can see it starts shrinking right after puberty. Usually, actually, some people start shrinking at 10 years old. So it really depends on, especially in girls that with the cosmetics have getting into basically puberty really early. So that would be an example. All right, so So there's some things that causes involution of the thyroid. So now we're going to focus mostly on the thyroid here because we're going to be talking about how it relates to the trim. So basically just saying it's reduced in size by an output by 70, 90% by 70. So essentially this is a digital representation, but as you get older, you get these fat deposits. And it's just like liver, your fatty liver, it's similar. It will eventually just turn into a big blob of fat versus like one that's young here. And so the only way to really see it would be like through an MRI, or you technically could see it with an ultrasound, but it's not very, if you really want to see how much, because you see an outline with the ultrasound, you don't really see how much is like fat. So that's where the MRI comes in. So this goes back to the thymic involution, the immunosenescence. That's the hallmark of aging that is basically talks about the thymus shrinking and no longer be able to fend off infections, cancer, stuff like that. You get autoimmune disorders because your thymus is not working properly. Okay, so the target of the thymus regeneration, which is basically the trim, it really talks about doing something to reverse the shrinkage. And so thymus regeneration could be the gateway for systemic biological age reversal. So that's one of the things that really turned Greg Fay on to doing this, or Dr. Fay, was that he wants to reverse the aging process. But the thing is, though, if you just turn back the thymus, you have other organs that are in that feedback loop that are shrinking and becoming more and more dysfunctional. And so that's just going to drive that thymus right back down to where it's non-functional. So you may, through his therapies, take that thymus up, but then it's going to quickly go back down, and you'll have to do more modalities to keep that in an upper position. So if you retreat more of the cause of that feedback degradation, you can do this less frequently. So this was the metformin I was telling you guys. Besides sleep, metformin it decreases by 80%, but it acts as an antioxidant. It acts as a thymic epithelial support, and it's anti-inflammatory, especially across the NF-κB pathway. So you should be taking metformin or melatonin, just because the fact that it will help you live longer. Okay, so this is I put this in here because one of the greatest things about being castrated is that your thymus will grow back really fast. So if you guys have no thymus and you just don't want any more kids, zero effort on your part except for just getting it cut, right? I'm just joking, but that's true. So that's the ablation. So it's really mainly with men. So women typically have a larger thymus than men, and it's because the testosterone, the DHT and stuff really impact the thymus. They do make, there's been people playing around with hormone inhibitors, especially with testosterone, to grow back the thymus. I don't particularly want to have any shrinkage in that department. So that's why I don't recommend this solution. I just want to throw it out there because some people have been talking about it. Okay, so I'll go into real quick the TRIM study. So basically, Dr. Fay, him being also a research participant in his TRIM, amongst 9 other guys, 2 of them wound up not making it through the full study. So it was really technically 7 of them, but they went to the 12 months, and they basically, their final calculation, so they did different aging profiles. The Hovarth aging test gave them 2.5 years. But it basically was demonstrating that with their intervention, which was the human growth hormone, DHEA, and metformin, that they could reduce the biological age and increase the thymus performance. So the outcomes was the thymic had regenerated, their immune system got better, their epigenetic age was reversed, and they didn't have any real side effects with it. So there's a triangle here, but so basically I want to expand on their protocol. So you got the limitations of the TRIM, which we had talked about because there's only treating one part of the problem. Going to the multi-organ interplay is kind of where you can maximize your rejuvenation by, in this particular case, reversing the endocrine aging. And then we were looking into the next generation of where we're working on now is this right here, going beyond just a single organ intervention. It's like just do it all, do the whole body. So this was launched by Intervene Immune, and so TRIM-X is the expansion. So he's basically taking the same protocols and just throwing more people at it. So you guys can actually sign up for the XP if you guys want. It's $4,000. If you decide you don't want to do it, you get $3,500 back because they spend $500 to do your initial blood work. And you also have to pass his criteria of like can't have cancer or stuff like that. So, and we have similar methods of like who's applicable to get onto it. All right, so I'm gonna go into the side-by-side comparison of the TRIM and then this new multimodal therapy that ASU and I are working on, which is basically targeting the hypothalamus and pineal axis. Okay, so here I'm just gonna go through what's like the same and difference, just so you guys know. You can see what the components are, what the TRIM protocol is calling, and then what our new protocol is coming. So you can see that they're using human growth hormone, which we know that it can drive cancer. And so we are proposing going with a bioregulator that can simulate or turn on the same growth hormones, but let your body's organs do it. Now, as you get older, though, since your throughput of those organs have gotten weaker, this means that an older person won't have the same amount of growth hormone released as a younger person, which means then their thymus is a lot smaller, so the surface area. So you can see how you have less hormone coming out of your body, and you have your thymus also not putting out a lot, and your pineal gland is not putting out. So everything that's in that axis is just gone. So it went to where I had this conversation with Dr. Fay, was that if we were going to do peptides, which he liked, there's a bunch of these other regulators that we're going to talk about soon, but does it make sense to, if you're at above a certain age, to have it where you have to now use an external hormone system because your body just can't produce it? So that would be like really hot, elderly people. So that goes back to while you're still young, want to be doing this while you are still have functional organs to allow you to do these cyclic. So one of the things that we'll talk about is these cytokines. This is really brand new. Just threw this on there, which no one has been doing yet. I'll go into that because there's a lot of research, especially from out of Russia, where it shows that it grew thymus. Just these alone grew back the thymus. And then we have all these other different things that have been shown to grow the thymus. So everything that's on this list has shown in the lab that it grows your thymus. And so that's why they're all part of this, is because they're all acting together to grow back the thymus. So now we're trying to do the whole system. So we threw in thymus, hypothalamus, and the pineal. And that's basically where you can see that the TRIM, they didn't focus on anything other than the thymus. And so some of the hormones and stuff, protocols that Dr. Fay's doing for TRIM does indirectly affect the hypothalamus. So he's technically doing the thymus and hypothalamus, but he's not really going at it directly. Here's an example of using kispectin and other neuropeptides to affect your thalamus directly. Melatonin, and over here, cytokines, peptides, which he's just doing hormones. So there's a big kind of difference here. So this is the outcomes that we're expecting. So from TRIMS therapy, demonstrated increase of functional thymus tissue from MRI, and then we're doing this multimodal, potentially double the thymic regeneration just from the research. We're saying that if we're going to be adding into all these different modalities. So from a theoretical, we're thinking that we can go 4 to 6 years versus their 2.5. And so the objective of our study that we want to do is to prove this out or show that no matter what, we're doing better than what, basically building on building upon the building block that Dr. Fay started. So he did the groundwork. He just like started out and said, hey, you know, we can reverse the thymus involution here. And then now we're saying everyone's starting to jump in around the world, say, oh, you know, if we keep doing this and that, we can make it even better. So you can say he's the father of the thymus involution, of reversal. So this just goes back to, we're doing the thymus regeneration program through the XPRIZE clinical trials. So that's basically what I'm showing you guys, kind of what I'm doing for XPRIZE. So if you guys get involved, you can be a part of this study. So at the end, I'll show you guys how to sign up. Okay, so this is how it affects the biological age. So this is the one that Dr. Fay's group used to show 2.5, but you can see that they also used the hand-numb clock and the Grimm age, and you can see that that one says 1.6. That one says 2.0. So if someone says that their biological age was something, it's going to be whatever that test is. There is no real way to say that you reversed your age. There's no way right now, the technology we have, that says you are really reversed age, because they all say the different thing. So there's just no way. They could be 1.6 years. Until they start changing their hair colors and they actually look like they're 20, I'm just going to take it with what's that?
Betty White concept.
Yeah, the Betty White concept. Yeah, exactly. So until then, yes, the Betty White. Thank you very much. That's a good example. So here's the limitations of TRIM. It's a short duration, and with XPRIZE, the semifinals were all at 6 months anyway, so if we get into the finals, it becomes a long year study and goes larger people. But the main thing is that he has a limited access target, and also he had a small sample group too, so we still have to take it with a grain of salt. We think that it's working. It's like trust but verify, so we believe that it reversed it. We now want to go and test it and verify that it did work. And so this is, but we believe that if we attack more of all the system that's aging, we can get a larger age reversal, which, you know, makes sense, right? So we want to expand on the, again, the same approach here going forward. And so we want to address the entire axis. So why target the entire axis? So basically, you have the hypothalamic, that's the master regulator, that's controlling the thymus, and it's going to have inflammation issues, and it's going to, basically, it's going to start dropping off in performance. And so since it directly controls the thymus and the pineal, you want to have this guy working, right? And same way with your thymus and your pineal, they're all talking to each other. And so we wanted to, if you're going to go and reverse your body, if you were just to fix one organ, you're going to have to go multiple times just to keep fixing that one thing. And then the other system's going to shut down and you're going to die anyway. So well, so just fix it all. So here's the thymic regeneration, going back to Dr. Fay's. His main things were growth hormone, DHEA, metformin, zinc, vitamin D. Okay, I goofed on that one. 2.5 age reversal. So this is the pilot study that we did on 20 individuals. It was a retirement community across ASU, and we were able to show them a 3.1 versus 2.6 going through the same process, but targeting more. And you can see that we still kept the same, but modified Dr. Fay's thing. So here's some of the things that we were doing differently. We were adding in peptides, and we went from metformin to berberine. And we were adding in senolytics. So that was one of the things that Dr. Fay was not doing, was senolytics. So we're trying to reduce the inflammation, the cross communications of the cells that are inflaming, because it's going to basically have it where if you don't tamper down the senescent cells, you're going to take longer to hopefully repair this stuff. So we're trying to calm the sea, I guess you say. So this is kind of the big difference. We have the thymus gland, and then that's it. And then we're over here with, again, we're going hypothalamus. Second target's the immune system, bring the inflammation down, and restore the feedback system. Okay, so for the X Prize, we're matching the same as TRIM because the requirements is 50 to 80 years of age. And everything's the same. So we're just basically duplicating them because we're both in the X Prize. So this is again, going back to the TRIM study. So I'm just going to be going back and forth. So participant selection, extended timeline, comprehensive monitoring, we're doing the same thing. Safety's an issue or concern, so we want to make sure that everyone's been pre-screened, stuff like that. We want to expand the intervention. And so, see if I can go a little bit faster, because that's just, all right. So the sample size demographics, again, it's the same. It's going to be 20 to 50 for the CME, and then 100 for the finals. Study duration, I guess you guys don't need to know that. Baseline, health span. Essentially, you're going to do an MRI, blood work, and stuff like that, and then going to get your digital twin, your metabolic blood work done, all that stuff. So this is just the steps going through it. This is the drug protocol for TRIM-X, because the first one you guys saw was just TRIM, and it goes through. You can see he pretty much kept the same, and here's the dosage, and then the rationale. Here's ours, where you can see that if you just go back and forth, you can see that it's not growth hormone, it's these peptides, and then you got berberine. We're still using DHEA, and we're doing senolytics, and then we're adding peptides, cytokines, and other supplements down here to follow basically the latest research showing that how it repairs the endocrine system, including the thymus, which is not being done by the TRIM. So we're going a little bit more in depth here. So it goes back to designing in the superior multimodal program. So I was just saying that it was a little bit better, I think. So you can see that we have in here, we're basically copying the core TRIM components, but then we're changing it up to where we're not doing metformin, we're doing berberine. And then we're throwing in these peptides and these cytokines. So if I go into the comparison, we have direct hormone replacement. We're doing a release through your own glands. And then we already talked about the differences between metformin and berberine and the other one, but you can see that it's adds additional benefit to your gut biome, lipid metabolism, and you don't run out of issues with your B12 being deficient. It's a modulator. I can probably skip through this stuff. Interventions, senolytic therapy. So this is some examples of the senolytic therapy, which you guys probably heard about. And then you can see here's the amount of the senolytics. And then we're adding in other stuff. This is the nutritional components, so we're adding in more stuff than what the TRIM study did. So you can see that we've kind of expanded upon it, try to improve those other systems, your pineal, your thymus. Technically, we're going after the thyroid as well and all the other axes, your gonads and your adrenal glands. We want to actually capture the whole system. I just didn't want to deviate too much from what the TRIM is doing, because TRIM is really just the thymus, but since the thymus plays extremely tight with the hypothalamus and the pineal gland, that's why I threw those in here, because you can't just treat the thymus without wanting to treat the other ones. And so you can see how we're doing peptides. These are from the thymus. This one is the cytokines and growth factors. I'll get to this one next. And then you can see we have these hormones, and then some metabolic regulators. So this is what came out of other studies. They're saying that people who had HIV were administered interleukin-7, and they were able to grow back their thymus. And this one with mice, they were able to show they grow back 3 times. And then the other one's interleukin-22. They were able to find out that they can grow back the thymus as well. So we wanted to see on that from a human's perspective. And then there's basically the thyroid, thymus, peptides, the hypothalamus, and other stuff for immune modulation. So you can see that we're working on multiple peptides. You have your thyroid axis, gonad axis, pineal square. So these are all within the hormones that are acting part of aging. So that's why technically we want to have our modalities to include those as well, so that you are treating the whole system and not just the other thing. The other things that we're going to be doing is hyperbaric, red light. You guys probably are familiar with this. Jacuzzi, sauna. All right. Sorry, I'm like putting you guys to sleep. So let me see if I can go through this real quick. So one of the things, which I'll skip over these real quick. So this is the calcification of the pineal gland, the inflammation of the hypothalamus, and then here's some peptides that you can use for your hypothalamus. This was the TRIM versus ASU health span, doing just blood work comparisons. You can see that since we're putting in peptides and treating the system, we have higher levels in the blood than the TRIM, which makes sense, right? And this is just the side effects. It's similar to TRIM. I'm gonna skip through a bunch of these so that way we can get done sooner. We're doing a digital twin, and so we're able to capture basically all the blood work and stuff like that. Should I? All right, well, I'll skip to the end then. Yeah, I had a lot of information. Sorry. Yeah. You guys had all day, right? This is Saturday. All right, well, anyways, so I want to say basically this is our group. If you want to sign up for X Prize, you got it here. And then if you guys want to get on the newsletter or do anything else, you can send a support youth renewal. So one of the things is that we want you to jump on first this questionnaire, and then if you guys send me an email, I'll give you guys a number, a serial number that you can go to mindcrowd.org to take the mental test. And then after the team reviews everybody's, we'll get back to you guys on that. And then this is the partnerships that we're working with, Mayo Clinic and all them. And then, so anyways, thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
I have so many questions. I want to start with the castration situation.
Sure.
Yeah, Jim and I are talking about this, and we're just seeing it very feasible, very easy, very straightforward.
Yeah, a butcher's cleaver works really good.
Clean cut, and then you get a new thymus.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, long term, it's just really a really good solution. I mean, I'm just saying. Why is that? I do wonder, why is what?
Well, it's because the hormones from the gonads directly affect the thymus in a negative way.
In a negative way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just getting rid of a problem.
Yeah, you're just getting rid of the problem. So the thymus is like, hey, I'm not getting,
So,
stressed here.
so we're just getting rid of a problem. Okay, so we got questions, and then we can also take questions online, so you can go ahead and use a chat function, and then we'll try to get to them. Yes, Dimitri.
Yeah, you flashed very briefly some peptides up there. I was wondering if you could talk to a little bit to which ones would be beneficial to stimulate and maybe reverse some of the causes. I recognize the thymosin alpha-1, I recognize thymulin beta-4 and so on, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so the thymulin alpha-1, everyone should be taking that along with epithelium for longevity. There's a lot of documentation out there. And so essentially those, and then thymulin beta-4 or TB500, those are another thyroid hormone. And so you're just, your thymus is putting out less and less each year. So the peptide allows you to get higher levels. You're like forcing the issue to the organ to put out more than it normally would. And so that's why you wanted to take it. And so that, because you got your pineal gland and your other endocrine systems that is geared towards those hormones and those peptides, the bioregulators. And so by substituting or adding into it, you can repair a lot of the age-related issues, because the cells getting a lot of signal noise, I should say, inflaming and other neighboring senescent cells. So it's not able to accept or give out those hormones at the previous levels. So we're artificially forcing those hormones to go higher, so that way your body can respond in a younger state, as if it was without all those senescent cells. Does that make sense?
Very thorough. I do want to remind everybody that this presentation is going to be on our website, so you can go back and see each of those slides. You can pause through that video. Any more questions?
I can
Audrey?
find all my mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I definitely just want to acknowledge you for working on the immune system, because I think it's just extremely important for all of us. So that's basically what you're doing, right? Working on the immune system to stimulate it, to regenerate it, and keep it going the best it can.
Yes, the endocrine system, that is part of the immune system. The immune system is part of the endocrine system. But, yep.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. So I had a question. Someone mentioned at RadFest about melatonin. So is it important to cycle melatonin? I've been taking it regularly. I take, I think it's 3 milligrams. It's 6-hour time release from Life Extension every night for a long, long time. So do we need to cycle it? Is it stopping us from producing our own? Or is there any value in that, do you think?
So melatonin is, because your pineal gland is the third eye. I don't know if you heard about that. So it indirectly responds to light, dark and day. So during the day, it's producing serotonin, and then at night it's melatonin. And so melatonin is telling you to go to sleep. So if you are going to supplement with melatonin, you want to do it when you go to bed. You want to match that cycle. If you wake up and decide you want to take your melatonin, you're going to have a bad day. So
no, I'm just asking if you should, like, if it's okay to take it all the time, like you've been doing.
At a certain window of time, yeah. I have never had any issues with it. I don't know anybody who's had issues if they take it before going to bed.
So you don't need to take a break from melatonin, is that what I'm...
No.
Okay.
no.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't, okay.
It's not like other peptides, it's just,
So a lot of other peptides you do need to take a break from, I
yeah,
notice,
that's correct, yeah. But also melatonin is dose dependent though, because if you take too much, you, again, feel like crap the next day.
Yeah.
At least with me anyways, so
Yeah.
usually between 3 to 5 milligrams is
Yeah.
kind of like the sweet spot for me.
Definitely. The time release is the only one that works for me. If I take a regular one, I wake up in the middle of the night. That's not good. Epitalon, what role does epitalon play?
So epitalon is also a bioregulator that's secreted from the pineal gland. And so that one is also an anti-aging. And it basically, when you inject yourself with epitalon, it encourages your pineal gland to produce more melatonin. Sorry, I wanted to say metformin for some reason. So yeah, that's what it'll do. It'll produce the melatonin.
Thank you.
So we got a couple of questions online about the slide deck. So we already mentioned that this will be available on the website, so you can go through those in about a week. And then also we got a question about the cost, which you briefly mentioned at the end of the study.
Yeah, there's a slide on there that was talking that both are about $12,000, $12,000 to $15,000. And just the blood work itself, you're looking from the start, which is $400 to $500, and then at the end, $400 or $500. So that's $1,000 just doing that one blood work, and then you have your hormones, your peptides, and other stuff. So it really depends on where we're getting it sourced from.
Right.
So.
And then that's a 50 and over trial.
Yeah, 50 to 80. But with the longevity clinic, though, we could, if you're 40 or 30, you can do them separately or whatever.
Great. Sure.
Yeah, so when I was looking at Greg's program, he had literally 4 elements, and you got many more.
Yeah.
But then even within Greg's program, you don't know which element actually created efficacy in terms of regrowing the thymus, right?
Yeah.
It could have just been the growth hormone, could have done everything enough, right?
Yeah.
And then, so are you concerned at all, with this whole lineup, that you won't actually know what's contributing, what's doing what?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So first half of the ingredients on Greg's or Dr. Fay's, which would be the DHEA and the metformin, is to counteract the insulin response from the growth hormone. So that's to basically bring it back down to homeostasis. So that's it's just like if you are on some drugs for these comorbidities, and you're taking a drug to fix the problem of another drug, and then now you're a pharmaceutical, you're taking 20 drugs. Right. That's sick care for you. But yeah, so that's, to go back to your original question, was that yes, from an XPRIZE standpoint, we want to show that we can reverse the age by 10 to 20 years. If we're able to say we can reverse the age by 20 years, I don't care how I get there. But then what that allows us to do, though, is get into the finals, or investors come in and say, hey, you've shown that you can reverse 20 years, now let's go figure out why out of all those modalities. So we're just taking a dartboard and just throwing a bunch of darts at it, which is a lot different than everyone else. Everyone's just fixing one thing, or just focusing on one little narrow thing. Yeah. And the thing is, though, we're gonna all be dead before we finally narrow down what it is. So why don't just throw everything at it and see what sticks? Yeah.
It's a maximalist approach.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're just thinking outside the box here. So Dr. Fay did a great job, and he proved the science that, or at least from what his data says, we'll have to reproduce it, of course. But if we can expand on that and we're able to grow even more, and then someone else is going to come along, see what we did, and then they're going to find something else to tweak it and make it better. So eventually we're all going to learn from this, and eventually, hopefully, the only thing that's going to kill us will be either accidents or run out of stem cells. That's really what it's going to boil down to. If we cure aging, once you run out of stem cells, you're gone. So we need to figure out how we can put those back into each organ.
Okay, great. Any other questions? We're good, and no more questions online. Okay, thank you, Clinton.
Thank you.